What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining the Partially Cultured Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron, and I have my two other hosts here with me, Isaac.
Yo.
And I've got Alan.
How's it going?
And these are going to be the three ugly mugs you guys get to see every week. Thanks for joining our first podcast. And just kind of a background of why we're doing a podcast. We spend a lot of time at work together talking about different subjects. And, we came up, we said, you know what, we should start a podcast because we talk about a lot of interesting things. So don't really have a format yet. It's going to evolve. So without further ado, we're just going to jump into it and, just kind of have a chat. I'm bringing some, topics to the table and we'll have a go and see how it goes. So, gentlemen, Our topic, it's kind of odd, but it's something I've noticed over the years. And do you think as we get older that our brains develop so that we don't see or understand things the same way we do as kids? Now, I know that's an obvious answer to that is yes, of course. You don't see things as you do it, like you do as a kid. But I mean things like, for example, babies or even animals. You ever see an animal or a baby just stop and stare at nothing? Like, what are they looking at?
In awe.
Right. What are they looking at? I mean, is it something, are they more in tune, I guess, with our surroundings than we are as adults? Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's like an actual belief that like Buddhists believe in that. Like as you grow, as you mature, you inherently you'll go through trauma, right? You go through things that you experience, problems so you have this constant weight on you of just being this, not all these worries, all these concerns, all this pain, past pain, all these traumatic experiences and things that kind of cloud your vision. That's why they want you to meditate and kind of clear your mind and be more cognizant. Like one of the things that they tell you to always do is always be aware of your surroundings. Constantly look around, take time to look at nature, look at trees, look at just things happening, sit down and let things happen around you, because especially in our culture, it's so go, 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 one thing to the next thing, TV on, phone. It's when do you ever get 2 seconds to breathe?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm familiar, with Buddhist beliefs, the end game is enlightenment, right? But that's kind of the opposite of what I'm saying, though, isn't it? Because you're trying to get to that level.
So you're saying you start out.
It's almost like you start at this super peaceful, happy state, right? And some people can say it's ignorance, right? You're a baby, you don't know what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. You just don't know what's around. You don't know why you're not scared of things. You don't know that you should be scared of things. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe the end goal is to revert back to that peaceful kind of.
Well, you mentioned something there. I mean, you mentioned kind of reverting back to that viewpoint, and it's funny because in Christianity they talk about having the faith as a child, faith like a child, and I think that there's something to that as well. It's just we definitely look at the world a different way as we did when we were children.
You question things
but
more.
We also are, like you said, are so busy with those distractions that we don't even give ourselves an opportunity to see what's being looked at or what's out there. We're just so bombarded with all these things from different angles, and we just ignore everything but just what we're working on right now, or the 5 different stimulus that we're trying to get simultaneously. So
I definitely think we get more cynical as we get older too.
That's true. But you also, when you're a kid, you have to think about sometimes a little bit more about what the next step is, and where we've grown accustomed to just automation, we're automated at this point. If you think about how you drive somewhere, I drove to work the same route every day and never thought about how I got there, never had to think about how to get there because it's just constant. It's always the same
It's
thing.
deeper.
It's automated.
It's almost like when artists talk about drawing or creating, like it, with a child's mind. You know what I mean? It's like we see things. We are so like trained to think certain ways, to behave certain ways, to think that we know how to do something, what direction to go. Like we have tunnel vision on everything in life. Like all of our experiences color everything that we do to the point where like something that is so obvious you may never notice, right? But a kid, it's like they're just constantly absorbing this stimuli and they don't have all these preconceived notions of like what's right, what's wrong, what's the correct way to do something, what's the wrong way to do something. It's like sometimes they'll come up with something that's genius. Like to me, it's like, wow, like that's mind blowing. How did you come up with that? And it's like that to them, it was just like, well, it seemed like a
Right.
solution, like it seemed like a thing. You know what I mean? Like that happens to me all the time with my daughter. Like she will randomly say something. I'm like, huh, never thought about something
Mhm.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I was thinking
You know,
about that earlier. It's just some of the stuff they come up with. I mean, it's just, oh, well, maybe that would work.
Yeah.
You know.
it's like oddly profound almost. Like it's like super simple sometimes. And you're like, huh,
So
yeah.
back to the partial original question then is if they are more in tune with the universe or whatever's around them, what are they looking at when they stop and they're in awe? Is there something there that we don't see?
There. So there's like a Puerto Rican and Dominican thing that like you know how babies will randomly just look into like the sky and like I don't know about if it happened with you, Aaron, but like my sons, right? Think we have one that's one, the other one's two. They'll look into the sky and just smile at stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you'll look and you think there's nothing there, and there's like a saying like in my culture that like oh they're looking at the angels. We just like we can't see them anymore. Like we've lost the innocence to be blessed with seeing
Mhm.
them, right?
Right.
But like they're so innocent that still that they've still have like that ability. It's like it's kind of I don't know, like maybe there is something that they're in tune with, and that not even like on a religious level, but just like on like what if it's like another dimension that they can see, or another a veil between life and death, or maybe because they're so close to being born, they're like still connected to that spiritual realm. Like who the hell knows, right? Like we don't know. We forget all that kind of stuff. But it's weird how frequently it happens and when it happens.
Yeah, and that's what kind of brought me to the topic because it happened the other day a couple of times at my house. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to, bring that up as a podcast topic because it happens more times than it just to be a coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, the dog can just be walking through the house, and this happened, like I was saying the other day. My daughter brings her dog over on the weekends, and it just stopped. It was just walking across the house right in front of me. It just stops and stares at the wall, and I'm like, and there's nothing there. Literally, nothing moved, and I'm like, I look at my daughter, and I'm like, what the
Dude,
hell's wrong with your dog? It's broken.
Yeah.
Lucas when he was born, Lynette will go down, she'll be breastfeeding. And then don't no, it doesn't matter what part of the living room she's sitting in, he will always look to this one corner of the living room, like ceiling, like near the entrance, like near the doorway, right? And just smile and like giggle
Hmm.
at that corner, right? And he would move like she'd be in different places, and he would like even like arch his neck as like he had to physically do work to look in that direction, and he would just like it's like he was like looking at a person and making faces and like laughing with them, like he was looking at us, like how he did with us,
Right.
and we're like, oh, whatever, that's just just Lucas being weird, baby.
Uh,
Noah does the exact same thing to the exact same
really.
spot.
Hmm.
See, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
creepy, right?
That's not a
Well,
coincidence at that
You know what I
maybe
point.
it's
mean?
that as
Like,
children you're more in tune with the natural instincts type of thing. Like like you see faces where they maybe don't exist, but your brain is telling you that there's a face there,
Yeah,
and we know that that's a natural thing. It's like people will see faces.
that's an actual thing.
It's well, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, kids can see stuff in clouds, and I'm like, no, that looks like a
Right.
potato. That doesn't look like, you know, a yacht with 40 people on it partying and shooting fireworks.
Right.
You know, or
Well, I think
whatever.
what
you know?
we've trained ourselves to ignore those things that we see out there. So our brain just automatically shuts it out. It's another part of that automation thing. It's like, well, there's nothing there, you know. But the kids, that they have to rely on those instincts in order to survive. So it's like it's one of those things that they're just more in tune with that. You could throw a newborn baby, into the water. It knows not to breathe through its nose, and it'll hold its breath. And they can actually like somewhat, you know, swim and stuff like that at that age.
Is that a fact? They'll hold their breath.
They won't breathe through like their nose. Yeah.
See, and that's
Or their mouth.
that's kind of another parallel with what I'm talking about with dogs, right? You throw a dog in, they inherently know how to swim.
Yeah, it's instinctual. It's built into their genetics, basically. It's an interesting topic, and I think you're right. I mean, I think it's just one of those things that you're just more naturally driven when you're a child, and you go out of that as you're more and more, you know, put into the world that we have it now, as we have it now.
Worrying about bills and
We just have way more things that we have to worry about than
Yeah.
faces in the sky or how many steps it takes to get up
We'll have that.
you know, to the house or whatever.
Mental freedom.
man, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to go back to that.
Well, just have like imagine having that little to worry about that like you can just be happy like picking up a little dandelion or whatever and
Yeah.
like blowing it, right? Like you know what I mean? Like just having so much pleasure in the simplest of things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I remember being a kid and actually going outside and just being happy that I was outside.
Right.
Like I didn't have to do anything. Like I could be outside and be like, yes, I'm outside. And it's like I very rarely get that amp about much bigger things nowadays. Right?
Yeah, I'm not super
It's like-
pumped when I have to go outside now because it's usually to mow the yard or, you know, run an errand.
Like, oh man, it looks beautiful out there, but I'll stay in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't know. I think there's something to be said for, you know, them, like you say, looking at angels and stuff, because that makes sense. I mean, as a child, you're not born with sin. I mean, you're born into the world with sin, obviously, but I mean, you're innocent as a child, so maybe they do get to see angels where we are a bunch of heathens. And
Well,
don't
it kind of
get
brings
that luxury.
it brings to my forebrain here my brother's kids. They don't really have a religious family necessarily, but whenever my nephew was, you know, about 2 years old, he would talk about seeing ghosts and stuff in the house. And he never watched anything or never was involved with anything. Like even with our, you know, like our Christian upbringing and stuff, we don't talk about ghosts or anything that much really.
Right.
And so it's not something that he would have seen necessarily amongst us, but he just had the idea that there's a ghost in the house, you know, or whatever. And he wasn't scared of it. He just knew or acknowledged that there was a ghost there.
Maybe it's a thing that he was always seeing, but he couldn't really communicate it. And then the only thing he could think of was he learned a ghost, and he's like, "Oh, that must be the thing that I've been seeing." Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if that's and it doesn't even have to like, what if like the afterlife is just another dimension that we just don't have visibility into, right? Like, what if the spiritual realm is existing all around us all the time, and we just can't perceive it? You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like, we have
Could be a
no
different
idea
dimensional plane,
about
like you said.
any of
Yeah,
that
I mean,
stuff.
There's a lot we don't know
Who
about
knows?
the other, all the dark matter that exists in the you know, universe and such.
That should be around that no one knows.
I mean, it makes up,
Yeah.
dark matter makes up the majority of the matter out there, and we don't know what it is or what it does.
Well, Isaac, you
And it
mentioned, you know, the baby that's growing up, and you know the family's not, you know, real religious or whatever. And I've told people this for years. You know, I don't try to put my opinions on people and have them, you know, agree with my point of view. But just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's not true. You know, right? You know, it does. Your opinion does not change fact. And if it's a fact that there are angels, then whatever, whether they're religious or not, those babies may be able to see
Yeah.
them. So
That's the whole thing. Is like because we know so little, we don't know what is
Yeah.
or isn't, right? So it's all kind of it's not fact until we know it, but it's been fact the entire time, right? Because that's kind of how fact works. So whether you want to believe it or not, like you said, if it's true, it's possible. Maybe that's exactly what's going
Right.
on. Who knows?
Right.
It's kind of trippy.
It's a good topic.
all right. Well, I mean, I want, like we all talked about, we wanted to try to make these episodes an hour or so. But, I mean, I think as we're getting started, kind of evolving and learning, how this is going to play out, I'm okay with ending the episode here and doing another one on another topic. I got topics on topics on topics.
Cool.
Got some heated ones that I know. Well, this is what's really good, guys, is I've spent a lot of time with both these, my co-hosts, and I know exactly how to push both their buttons. I know what triggers each one of them against each other. So it's probably going to be pretty good, once we get our feet wet and figure out how we want to run this thing. Then I'll save some of the spicier topics for later on down the line. But anyway, you guys want to say anything before I close it out?
That was fun, man. I can see where we can grow, and hopefully this, we keep it going and develop our skill on this, and hopefully people like it.
Yeah, I'm liking it so far. Let's see where it
Cool.
goes, and hopefully we have some viewers that'll enjoy it and then go along with us, grow along with us, and see what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, I'd love to have to do these live and have people join
Have people
in,
chime in.
answer questions, get their opinions on stuff. So, anyway, we do appreciate you guys joining the first podcast. If you guys want to check us out, we are all over social media. Probably won't be a whole lot there because we just created them, but you can get us on our website, partiallycultured.com. Hit us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. All the same tagline, partially cultured. So till the next one, we'll see you guys. Thanks.